Welcome to Geo-Capitalist, where we decode global wealth, one power shift at a time. Today we're uncovering how Canada just signed onto a $53 billion copper megadeal that could reshape the global energy transition, challenge U.S. influence, and put Ottawa in control of a resource more valuable than oil. If you're watching the rise of copper closely, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, is copper the new oil? Stick with us until the end, because the hidden winner in this story isn't who you think. On September 9, 2025, the mining world changed. Anglo-American, a London-based giant mining company, announced a $53 billion merger with Tech Resources, Canada's flagship mining company. Overnight, the two formed one of the largest copper producers on Earth, controlling critical projects in Chile, Peru, and Canada itself. This isn't just another corporate merger. It's about who controls the lifeblood of modern industry. Copper is essential for everything: electric vehicles, wind turbines, solar panels, data centers, and defense systems. Without copper, the green transition stalls, and so does the next generation of technology. And here's the kicker: copper is already in short supply. Goldman Sachs called it the new oil years ago, and demand is projected to triple by 2035. Prices are expected to soar. Whoever controls copper supply chains controls the pace of the energy transition. For Canada, this is a jackpot. Teck wasn't just a mining company, it was a strategic gateway into Latin America's richest deposits. By merging with Anglo-American, Ottawa now gains a direct hand in shaping global copper flows. But here's where the story gets more interesting. This isn't just about economics. This deal is a geopolitical asset. And the first country to feel its weight isn't China or Europe, it's the United States. Think of the 20th century. Oil dictated geopolitics, from the Middle East to North America. Hostilities, alliances, and superpower status were built on barrels of crude. Now fast forward to the 21st century, copper is quietly taking oil's place. Why? Because copper isn't just metal, it's the artery of electricity. Every EV motor, every high-voltage cable, every AI-powered data center runs on copper wiring. An electric car uses 4 times more copper than a gasoline vehicle. A single wind turbine needs over 60,000 pounds of copper. Even military drones and advanced radar systems depend on it. Now, layer on the global energy transition. Governments from Washington to Brussels have pledged trillions to reach net zero. The International Energy Agency warns that without a massive copper boom, the transition fails. By 2030, global supply shortfalls could reach 6 million tons per year. That's why the Anglo-Tech deal is seismic. It creates a copper superpower, capable of supplying nearly 10% of the world's demand. And that means leverage. But here's the twist. While the U.S. once dominated resource diplomacy, it now finds itself sidelined. American companies have little foothold in copper-rich Latin America. Canada and the UK, by contrast, just stitched together a global empire of copper mines stretching from the Andes to the Arctic. Which raises the million-dollar question: what happens when Washington realizes copper's lifeline runs not through Texas or California, but through Vancouver, London, and Santiago? For Canada, this merger is more than economics. It's a geopolitical jackpot. Why? Because Canada didn't just sell tech to Anglo-American. It embedded itself in a transatlantic mining alliance that cements Ottawa as a gatekeeper for the copper era. Tech's crown jewels are its copper projects in Chile and Peru, 2 countries that together supply nearly 40% of the world's copper. With Anglo's global reach and financing muscle, those mines now flow through a Canada-linked pipeline. That means every ton of copper dug in South America is tied to Canadian interests. At home, Teck's British Columbia operations also expand Anglo's footprint in North America. Ottawa now has an inside track to channel Canadian copper directly into U.S. and European supply chains. It's industrial diplomacy at its finest. And here's the kicker: this isn't happening in isolation. Canada has already signed critical mineral pacts with the EU, Germany, and Japan. Add copper dominance to that portfolio, and suddenly Ottawa isn't a middle power anymore. It's a supply chain kingmaker. But there's another angle few are talking about. By merging Teck with Anglo, Canada just built a shield against Chinese influence. Beijing has spent years buying up copper assets in Africa and Latin America. Now, one of the few Western mining giants big enough to challenge China's state-owned behemoths is tied directly to Ottawa. The message is clear. Canada may not have aircraft carriers, but it now commands something just as powerful: the ability to throttle or accelerate the world's energy transition. For Beijing, the Anglo-Teck merger is a nightmare scenario. China is the world's largest consumer of copper, devouring over 50% of global demand. Its entire industrial machine, from EVs to high-speed rail, runs on copper imports. But here's the problem: China doesn't control enough of the supply. Yes, it has secured stakes in Africa's Congo Belt and Latin American mines, but the merger just created a Western mining giant big enough to lock China out of key markets. Teck's projects in Chile and Peru are critical. China desperately wanted deeper stakes there. Instead, Canada and the UK now stand in the way. Add Ottawa's growing ties with Brussels and Tokyo, and suddenly China faces a Western supply chain wall. And it's not just about raw metal. Copper prices are global. If Anglo-Teck tightens supply, Beijing's costs skyrocket. Every EV, every battery, every grid expansion becomes more expensive. That's not just an economic headache, it's a strategic chokehold. No wonder Chinese state media already frames the deal as resource nationalism in disguise. To Beijing, this isn't capitalism, it's geopolitics, and Canada is at the center of the storm. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While China scrambles, Washington is also caught off guard, because the country losing the most leverage in this deal isn't halfway across the world. It's right next door to Canada. For decades, the United States dictated resource flows across the hemisphere. Oil from Venezuela, gas from Canada, minerals from Chile. Washington assumed it was in control. But in copper, that dominance has vanished. American companies don't own major copper mines in Latin America. U.S. copper production has stagnated for decades. And now, with the Anglo-Teck merger, Washington wakes up to a world where Canada, not the U.S., is the bridge between South America and Europe. This is more than embarrassing. It's strategically dangerous. The Pentagon itself has warned that copper is a defense-critical material. Fighter jets, naval ships, missile systems all depend on advanced copper wiring. If supply is disrupted, America's military edge erodes. So what happens if Ottawa decides to prioritize exports to Europe over the U.S., or if Brussels dangles subsidies to secure Canadian copper? Suddenly, Washington's reliable neighbor becomes a competitor in resource diplomacy. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The U.S. can't stop it. The merger is done. Canada is inside the EU's critical minerals club, and Anglo's global network ties Ottawa to Europe and Asia, not just America. For the first time in decades, Washington is on the outside looking in. And the country that benefits most from that vacuum isn't just Canada. It's Europe. Europe has been desperate for copper. Its green transition, from EVs in Germany to solar grids in Spain, faces a supply crunch. Brussels has warned repeatedly that without secure copper imports, the EU's climate goals collapse. Enter Canada. With the Anglo-Tech merger, Ottawa can funnel South American and Canadian copper directly into European markets. And thanks to its critical minerals pact with Germany signed in August 2025, Canada already has the political framework to do it. That makes this deal a quiet victory for Brussels. For once, Europe isn't left behind in the resource race. It has a North American partner who can deliver, without the baggage of U.S. politics. And here's the hidden detail. European banks, including the European Investment Bank, are already exploring co-financing deals tied to copper infrastructure. That means billions in subsidies could flow into Canadian projects, ensuring Ottawa has both the mines and the markets locked in. For Poland, Germany, and even the Nordics, this is a lifeline. Instead of relying on Russian pipelines or Chinese imports, Europe can tie its energy transition to Canadian copper. But this doesn't just change Europe's fortunes, it reshapes Canada's identity, because suddenly Ottawa isn't just a U.S. junior partner, it's a transatlantic resource superpower, and that comes with risks and opportunities we'll explore next. Every big bet comes with risks, and the $53 billion copper deal is no exception. First, Latin America is volatile. Protests in Peru, political shifts in Chile, both threaten mining stability. If projects stall, Canada's leverage weakens. Second, environmental opposition is growing. Copper mines use enormous water supplies, and communities are fighting back. A single disruption could slash output for years. But here's the key. Even with risks, Canada now sits in the driver's seat. Every EV company, every European government, every defense contractor depends on secure copper flows. And Ottawa has a say in where those flows go. That's unprecedented leverage. It means Canada can trade access for influence, turning copper into a diplomatic currency. Just as oil gave Saudi Arabia and the U.S. leverage in the 20th century, copper could give Canada clout in the 21st. Looking ahead, this merger could also spark copycats. Don't be surprised if other Western mining firms consolidate to counter China. Canada, with its resource base and strategic location, will be at the center of those deals. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about copper. It's about the future of the global economy. Whoever controls copper controls the speed of electrification. And Canada just bought itself a front-row seat. So, what does this $53 billion deal really mean? It means Canada has gone from being a mid-tier mining nation to a global copper kingmaker. It means the energy transition now runs partly through Ottawa, and it means Washington, Brussels, and Beijing will all have to adjust to a new reality. For Canada, the opportunity is massive. Jobs, investment, and geopolitical influence all flow from copper dominance. For Europe, it's a safety net. For China, it's a nightmare. And for the U.S., it's a wake-up call. But the bigger story is this. Copper isn't just about wiring or batteries. It's about power, economic, military, and political. Just as oil shaped the 20th century, copper will shape the 21st. And Canada, through the Anglo-Tech merger, just secured a seat at the table. The question is, can Ottawa manage the risks, balance the alliances, and use this leverage wisely? Or will volatility in Latin America and rivalry with Washington complicate its rise? Either way, the message is unmistakable. Canada isn't just teaming up anymore, it's betting big, $53 billion big, on a future where copper decides who leads and who follows. And the world is watching. That's Geo-Capitalist, decoding Canada's $53 billion copper bet. If you found this breakdown valuable, check out our next video. It connects directly to what's unfolding. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us decode these global shifts without compromise. Let us know in the comments. Is copper really the new oil, or is this deal too risky? Either way, the future is wired. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.